Alex once believed that ending the relationship would end the conflict. He was wrong. The day Alex walked away, the day he refused to be controlled any longer, the real war began. No longer able to dominate him directly, Alex's former spouse unleashed an invisible assault, a psychological campaign designed not to argue with him, but to erase him. At first, it was subtle, but as the weeks turned to months, the methods became clear and devastating. Controlling the narrative. Within days of their separation, Alex's ex was already working to control the story. Neighbors whispered that Alex had abandoned his family. Mutual friends stopped returning his calls. School officials treated him with cautious distance. He hadn't changed, but their perception of him had, and he hadn't even seen it happening. The ex didn't act alone. Flying monkeys, former friends, extended family, even some teachers, were enlisted to do her bidding. They didn't know they were part of a campaign. They thought they were protecting the family from a dangerous man they had once admired. The lies worked faster because they weren't shouted. They were whispered. In private, Alex's worst fears, the secrets he had trusted her with, were turned into weapons. Comments about his depression were now proof he was unstable. A story about his late work nights, proof he was unfaithful. The most personal parts of his life were used to paint him as a monster. The saddest irony was this: Alex's kindness, his patience, his willingness to give her the benefit of the doubt, were used against him. Every silent moment was spun into guilt. Every patient explanation was twisted into evidence that he was manipulative. He realized that while he operated within the limits of empathy and decency, she operated without any. Cheating, lying, manipulating finances, dragging Alex's name through the mud without a flicker of remorse. There were no rules, only the relentless drive to win. While Alex agonized over doing the right thing, she moved ruthlessly, from tactic to tactic, without pause. One day, Alex discovered he was being accused of abuse, a rumor that had been quietly seeded months earlier. No evidence, no police report, just enough suspicion planted in the minds of others to taint everything he said or did. He realized, in this game, truth didn't matter, only the narrative mattered. Every action, every conversation, every custody negotiation was a battleground, not for fairness, but for total victory. It didn't matter if the children were hurt. It didn't matter if the lies tore apart extended family. Winning, controlling the legacy, was the only goal. And then came the most devastating betrayal. The subtle, constant pressure on his daughter to question his love, doubt his intentions, and pull away emotionally. Gifts dismissed. Phone calls monitored. Memories twisted. Alex watched helplessly as the child he adored began to believe the magician's trick. Not because she didn't love him, but because survival in the alienating parent's home meant aligning with the illusion. And when Alex tried to explain, tried to fight back, he found himself accused of doing exactly what had been done to him. He was called the manipulator, the liar, the unstable one. This is projection, one of the narcissist's most devastating weapons. They accuse you first so that when you finally tell the truth, it sounds like an excuse. In the hands of a malignant narcissist, love becomes a weapon, truth becomes a battlefield, and survival becomes an act of defiance. To understand these tactics is not to surrender to them. It is to arm yourself. When you know the methods, you can see the trap. When you see the trap, you can begin to break free. In the next chapter, we will step into the emotional aftermath to explore the methods used against the targets and victims. Alex thought he was free. After a long, painful divorce, he believed that ending the marriage would end the chaos. But as he stood alone in a quiet house, birthday cards unanswered, visitation times ignored, lies whispering through the community, he realized something horrifying. The battle had only changed form. It hadn't ended. And now it wasn't just about him, it was about his children. Alex's story wasn't rare. It was part of a silent epidemic unfolding across the country. Half of all children would watch their parents divorce. 83% of custody cases awarded to mothers. Only 22% of fathers, like Alex, would see their children more than once a week afterward. A growing number of custody trials finally beginning to recognize the devastating hidden role of narcissistic influence. In this war, most people didn't even realize what they were witnessing. Parental alienation wasn't a bad breakup. It was psychological warfare, planned, executed, and devastatingly effective. On the surface, Alex's ex was beloved, popular at work, always the life of the neighborhood gatherings, endlessly connected to a wide web of friends. But behind closed doors, the mask was gone. What the public saw was charm. What Alex lived was control, revenge, and emotional cruelty. He learned the hard way that malignant and covert narcissists weaponize charm as a tool, not as a truth. 1. Idealization. At first, she had made him feel invincible, adored, admired, essential. Every conversation was filled with praise, every glance overflowing with love. He wasn't being loved, he was being set up. 2. Devaluation. The warmth faded. Small insults slipped into daily conversations. He was never enough, never smart enough, never successful enough, never loving enough. He questioned himself, while she sat back and watched his self-esteem crumble. 3. Discernment. One day, without warning, she was emotionally gone. He was not informed, he was erased. Already, she was cultivating new sources of admiration, new supply to feed her endless hunger. 4. Hoovering. But just when Alex began to breathe again, the phone would buzz. I made a mistake. The kids miss you. We should try again for the family. It wasn't love. It was hoovering, pulling him back for another cycle of exploitation. Each time Alex responded, each time he gave her the benefit of the doubt, he handed her new supply. This cycle would not stop. It would repeat, indefinitely, until he recognized it, withdrew his supply, and cut the cords completely. Only by seeing the full pattern, the predictable steps, the ruthless tactics, could he begin to reclaim his mind, his peace, and his children's future. Parental alienation isn't a series of isolated bad moments. It's a natural consequence of a predictable pattern of narcissistic abuse. Once you see the cycle, you cannot unsee it. Once you recognize a magician's trick, the illusion loses its power. In the next part, we'll walk through the long-term damages inflicted by the narcissist,